what's up, everybody, and welcome into Around the Bags. It's our 4th edition. We haven't been back for a while now, but it's time for the MLB to get underway, and I'm excited. I don't know about you. It's Mitch Glessner here alongside Thomas Lemanske. I don't know about you, Thomas, but I'm ready for the season to start.
Dude, I am pumped. We got one more day left. Actually, wait. It started tonight. The Royals got one more day to play. I can't wait.
It's Easter Sunday today, and opening night is going on right now. The Chicago Cubs are playing the St. Louis Cardinals. That's been an all-right game, and we had to step aside, though, to get Around the Bags in. So this is going to be our prediction show, so we're going to have some fun here today in predicting our teams that are going to win each division, our wild card, and then we'll get into some fun World Series picks and also our MVPs and Cy Youngs and all that good stuff. So a lot of good baseball talk here today on Easter Sunday. So let's get right into it here. We're going to start out with the American League East, and we're not delaying at all. We're just going to get right into it with our picks here. And Thomas, I'm going to have the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. The Boston Red Sox, let's be honest, they're stacked. You know, when they acquired Sandoval in the offseason, that was a really good signing, along with Hanley Ramirez. I mean, they're stacked head to toe.
Yep.
Same with pitching as well.
Yep. I mean, as soon as they signed Hanley and then you get Pablo Sandoval on top of that at third base, I mean, Pablo Sandoval, he hasn't been a great player in the regular season, but what's mattered most is his postseason play, and that's what the Red Sox are just looking for. They're looking for, guys that can play in the postseason, and they're expecting to get back there. They get Mike Napoli back, and this is how good their outfield is, and they signed Rusney Castillo, and he is not even going to be on their opening day roster, Thomas.
Yeah, going back to last year when the Royals played the Giants, Pablo Sandoval, he hurt us. And so, Mookie Betts in the outfield, he's an up-and-coming rookie. He's gonna ball out this year. Xander Bogaerts at the shortstop position. They're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Xander Bogaerts. I've watched a lot of him. I think he's only going to grow into a better player, a better defensive shortstop, and a better hitter as well. He's projected right now at only 267. That's about where I would put him at as well, but I think that's going to climb a little bit. I just think the Red Sox are too stacked offensively for that division. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be a very good team as well, but I am going to go with the Boston Red Sox in the AL East.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's going to be important for them is their pitching. The Buchholz is their ace. They had a bad year last year, but Buchholz, he's for sure ace. They have Porcello, Masterson, Miley, and Wright. So their pitching isn't as stacked as their fielding is, but if their pitching holds up, they're gonna do some damage in the regular season and maybe in the postseason this year.
Absolutely, and we're going to get on to it now with the AL Central, the big division we all care about, obviously, the Kansas City Royals. They will kick off tomorrow. I cannot wait.
3:10.
Exactly. We can all not wait for that to start up, especially after the Royals have that World Series run, a magical run for them. But we're going to get into this year's predictions, and I hate to not predict the Royals, obviously.
Come on, man.
I'm a diehard Royals fan, but in the AL Central, Thomas, I'm going with the Chicago White Sox.
The White Sox?
Yes, I'm going with the Chicago White Sox, and here's why. They signed Jeff Samardzija in the offseason. Mm-hmm. They already have Chris Sale. Jose Abreu is an up-and-coming. He already established himself as a very good hitter.
Yeah, he's going to be in contention for the AL MVP.
Absolutely. And then they sign Adam Eaton as well, who I think is a very good center fielder, very good defensively. He adds that lefty bat into their lineup. He'll probably bat leadoff for them. I just think that the White Sox are going to have too much this year in the AL Central.
Yeah, I mean, call me a homer, but I'm going with the KC Royals, baby. Look at their outfield. I mean, the outfield speaks for itself. Alex Gordon, Lorenzo Cain, and the new addition of Alex Rios. Alex Rios batted 285 last year. He's getting up there in age, but if he bats somewhere near 285, that outfield's going to be stacked. Hosmer, hopefully he carries on what he's been doing last season. But the key, I think, for the Royals is Mike Moustakas. He's started off slow the past, 3 seasons. But if he bats about 260 or above and 15 home runs, I think the Royals going to be looking pretty good. And with the addition of Volquez, in the starting rotation to replace who's the
James Shields.
Yeah.
Can't forget about Big Game James
Shields. Yeah, Padres now. But, yeah, I think that was a good sign by the Royals. Volquez, we got Ventura, who...
And not to mention Chris Medlin either.
Yeah.
I think he'll be very good.
Ventura's going to step into the ace role for the Royals, which he showed, that he is capable of being the ace last year in the postseason.
Yeah. And, I talked about this the other day, last week with Shane Jackson. Shout out to Shane. He's doing some good work with the KU baseball team here in Lawrence. But back to what I said last week, and I think it's just going to be a matter of the starting pitching for the Royals, and if they can stay healthy because they have so many young arms. But without further ado, we're going to move on here to the AL West. We're going to stick here with the AL. We're moving along through here pretty well so far. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. A lot of people have been talking about the Seattle Mariners. A lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon, especially since Robinson Cano has been fantastic for them. Felix Hernandez is obviously one of the best pitchers in the league. He's been great for them too, but I'm sticking with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and here's why. They have the best player in baseball right now in Mike Trout.
Hands down.
No doubt about it. Mike Trout is just an absolute stud. And I really think Pujols, he had a couple that down years, first year there in Anaheim. I think Pujols is going to have a very good year. I think he'll have another Pujols-like year. And then Josh Hamilton, not suspended by the MLB.
That was a surprise.
Very surprising. I think Josh Hamilton is going to come back as well. I think there's just a lot of talent there in L.A., and I think they're going to come out in the AL West.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. They're starting pitching looks pretty good. They got Weaver, they got C.J. Wilson, Schumacher, Santiago, and Rosinski. I think that's going to be the key for them. They're stacked pitching-wise, but, Johnny G. Vitello at the second base, I'm surprised he got the starting roles. But Eric Ibar at the shortstop, David Freese about 2 years ago was the Cardinals' savior in the playoffs. Mike Trout, of course, in center field. Yeah, I think they're going to get the nod for my favorite in the AL West.
Absolutely, and there's just to me it comes down a lot of time to the talent, ability in the regular season. Something kind of clicks. Last year you saw it click with the Royals and as well as the Giants. It wasn't as much talent in the postseason, but in the regular season for me, a lot of times it comes down to who has about the most talent, and I just see that LA has just a little bit more talent than Seattle.
Yeah, and look at the division. You got the Astros and the Rangers.
Right.
The Rangers had a really down year last year, and that's not that strong of a division. So I'm going to go with the Angels, and the Mariners aren't that far behind though.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to skip over the wild card. We're going to cover that a little bit later here on in the show. We're going to cover that last. We're going to get into the NL now. And the NL, Thomas, is a little bit more one-sided in a lot of the divisions. And we're going to start out here with the NL East. And I don't know how you can vote against them. It's got to be the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, like I said earlier, their starting pitching is going to be key for him. Scherzer, Strasburg.
You mentioned that I think in our second edition. And
yeah, right. Scherzer, Strasburg, Zimmerman, Gonzalez, Pfister. Those guys are all ace quality. It's absolutely insane. But they got Denard Span, Jason Worth, and Bryce Harper. Who Bryce Harper is going to be in contention, in my opinion, for the NL MVP. So. Yeah, by far, hands down, they're my prediction for the NL East.
Yeah, and going back to talent, they're obviously the most talented team in that division. You look at, like you already said, Bryce Harper, a guy, he had a couple injury issues and whatnot. But I think Bryce Harper is going to have a very good year this year as long as he stays healthy. Ian Desmond is one of the best offensive shortstops in the game today. There's just a lot of talent on that team, and their starting rotation, as you already mentioned, Thomas, is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, the crazy thing is Zimmerman at third base, he's a backup to Rendon, which is insane. So they're stacked at every position, and I think they're going to do quite well this year.
All right, so there's our NL East predictions. We're both unanimous there on Washington Nationals winning that division. We're going to move on to the NL Central now, which is a growing. It's more of a growing division.
Yeah,
and especially the Cubs and the Astros and whatnot. But I'm going to go here with the St. Louis Cardinals, and the reason I'm going to pick the Cardinals is they've just been an established ball club for as long as I can remember.
Pure class.
Yep, Adam Wainwright is a stud. He doesn't get enough credit I think that he deserves. He's pitched outstandingly so far tonight of what I saw in opening night. I think the Cardinals, along with their Gold Glover and Yadier Molina, Matt Holliday, I think they're going to win that division.
Yeah, I mean, with the acquisition of Jason Hayward in right field from Atlanta, that really bolsters their outfield. I mean, John Jay in center, Matt Holliday, Jason Hayward. That's pretty stacked outfield. And you talk about Wainwright, dude, that curveball of his. Holy crap.
It's very good, yeah.
And, talk about Colton Wong at second base. He was up for NL Rookie of the Year last year. He hit pretty well, and he's pretty good defensively. I mean, they got my nod for NL Central.
So far the NL, we're staying unanimous on our picks so far. But, I mean, and that's just how good the NL is. And, the AL is more of a growing part of Major League Baseball right now. A lot of different prospects and whatnot, and the NL is more of an established side right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, the superstars. There's a lot of superstars on certain teams. You don't see superstars on every team like you do the AL. There's a lot of good players on the same team. So,
right.
I mean, the type of talent isn't really spread out like the AL, like you said, but. I think the Cardinals, they got a lot of good players. They're going to win the NL Central this year.
Yep, and there you go. There's our NL Central prediction. And speaking of the Central, it is Easter Sunday, and it is opening night, as we were all looking forward to. And the Cardinals went final with the Cubs, 3-0, Thomas. And Adam Wainwright gets the first win of the year in the big leagues, as John Lester gets his first loss, and a little disappointing there, as the Cubs obviously want John Lester to be their number one guy. And I don't have any doubts about the Cubs, especially about their future and some of the guys that they're bringing up. But an interesting start, and both of our picks in the Cardinals and the NL Central, they come away with the win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel sorry for John Lester. He just got paid, so
he did get paid a lot of money, and we're gonna move on that note to our wild card predictions. And we're going to start out here with the AL. And, Thomas, I'm going to go. I didn't pick the Royals. You picked the Royals in the division in the AL Central. But I'm going to go with the Royals here in the wild card. I can't. I have to see my Royals back in the postseason, especially after you get to the World Series. I have to see them back in the postseason. I'm going with the Royals, as well as the Seattle Mariners, who we talked about were a very talented team just behind LA in the AL West. I had LA there, and Thomas did as well. So I have Seattle versus the Kansas City Royals there in the wild card game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Detroit and the Orioles. You talk about the Orioles, Matt Wieters and Hardy at shortstop. They're both starting the year on the DL. If they weren't starting the year on the DL, I would put them up there with the Red Sox in contention to win the division. But since they are, I think it's going to hurt them at the end or the beginning of the season. And I think the Red Sox are going to get out to the early lead in the division, and I think they're going to be able to catch up. But Detroit, man, they're pretty stacked. I mean, they won the division last year. They acquired Cespedes.
Right.
You got Cabrera at first, Ian Kinsler at second. I mean, David Price, the ace. I mean, he's going to be up for the AL Cy Young this year. I mean, I'm a homer for the Royals, but I mean the Detroit's going to be up there with the Royals. I think it's going to be a good battle in the AL Central this year, but I'm going to give the nod to the Detroit in the wild card.
Yeah, and I think the AL Central is going to surprise a lot of people. I think that's going to end up being one of the more competitive divisions in baseball, really. Just because all of the teams are very close. And we didn't even touch on Cleveland, who, Corey Kluber is an absolute stud, and the AL, Cy Young for them. And we're not even talking about them. Cleveland has a very good lineup. The whole AL Central in general is going to be very good, but I'm just going to have the Royals edging it out just barely in the wild card there, coming in second in the AL Central.
Yeah, I mean the AL Central, I think they were the best division in baseball last year. It came down to the wire, and the Royals got the wild card last year in contention with Detroit. But yeah, I mean they're pretty stacked head to toe. Minnesota's at the bottom, but they got some talent on there. They're a growing team. They're going to get better.
Yep. So let's move on now to the NL side of things. In the NL wild card, we'll touch on that here real fast. And we already talked about the NL being a more established, pretty unanimous in the Cardinals, Dodgers, and Nationals. But when you look at the wild card, Thomas, there's some grabs. It's up for grabs. There's a lot of teams that are young in the NL and a lot of teams that could come up and steal that wild card. My first pick, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Pirates, though, and I'm going to have them barely losing out in the NL Central. I think the Pirates are doing everything the right way. They have a great center fielder in Marte and center fielder in McCutchen, and Marte will probably play right field.
Yeah.
They have some great young talent. I love Pittsburgh, what they've done. Great management, great scouting. I think they're going to get that first nod in the wild card. And then I'm going to go with the San Diego Padres. And the reason I'm going to go with the Padres is they've just done everything possible in this offseason in order to win. And when you add a guy in Will Myers, Matt Kemp, B.J. Upton, Corey Kimbrell, you're going to have a good shot at winning.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with the Pirates. Talk about the Pirates. Josh Harrison at third base. He had a breakout year last season.
Yeah,
Pedro Alvarez at first.
Mm-hmm.
A
lot of pop there.
Oh yeah. Francisco Cervelli at the catcher. I mean, they're looking pretty good. Pedro Alvarez is going to hop on over to first base since Josh Harrison had his breakout year, and he's more athletic and he's more agile. He's a better third baseman than Pedro Alvarez in my opinion. But secondly, I'm going to have to go, it hurts my heart. I'm going to pick him, but I'm going to have to go with the San Francisco Giants.
Okay.
The Giants,
And that's what I touched on a little bit earlier. And sometimes it's not about the talent. And sometimes these teams just have the it factor in the postseason.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the San Francisco Giants do or have.
I can't disagree with you at all.
Yeah, you look at the starting pitching. You got Bumgarner, Kane, Hudson, Peavy, and Lincecum. Lincecum, 3-4 years ago we're talking about the best pitcher in baseball. Yeah. So you got Posey, who's going to be in the contention for the NL, MVP. Right.
We talked about that also in an earlier episode of Around the Bags, of him even being possibly the face of baseball here coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it just comes down to the winners. You got Bruce Bochy at the manager position. He's one of the best managers in baseball. So I mean, they're looking pretty good, and they're going to get my second vote for the NL wild card.
Awesome, and so that concludes our picks from around the league. And now, Thomas, we're gonna get into our picks for the AL and the NL to win the ALCS and the NLCS. In the ALCS, it was a hard pick because the AL is extremely talented. I'm going to go with the Boston Red Sox, though, in the AL.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, dude. I mean, like I said before, dude, they're stacked. I mean, head to toe. I mean, all those acquisitions they had this year. I know they had a down season last year, but I think they're going to get the nod for the ALCS.
And when you have so many guys that have so much postseason experience, you look at a guy in Dustin Pedroia, David Ortiz, Hanley Ramirez, Pablo Sandoval. Pablo Sandoval obviously winning the World Series last year with the Giants. These guys all have postseason experience. So it's going to be like nothing to them, in my opinion. Clay Buchholz, I think he's a great pitcher. I think in the postseason, he'll be this year's version of Madison Bumgarner in the postseason.
That's a bold statement. I mean, Madison Bumgarner single-handedly pretty much.
Well, Madison Bumgarner put up some numbers that nobody can put up, but I think Clay Buchholz can kind of carry the Red Sox, so to speak, pitching-wise.
Yeah, Clay Buchholz definitely has the potential to do that. I mean, I think Mookie Betts, he's going to be in contention for the Rookie of the Year. He's going to play a big role in their title run if they do have one.
Absolutely. So we're both going with the Boston Red Sox in the AL. We'll go now to the NL side of things. And the NL, Thomas,
who you going
a lot of people, might be a little surprised, and a lot of people go with the Washington Nationals. I'm going with the St. Louis Cardinals, though.
All right. Well, I'm going to stick with the crowd. I'm going to go with the Nationals. Just looking at their roster head to toe, I think they just have more talent than any other team in the MLB, especially at the pitching position. So I'm going to give the nod to the Nationals.
Yeah, I just think the Cardinals, they're there every single year.
Yeah.
They're always in contention. I just think this is kind of that year. I really like Mike Matheny managing that ball club. He's done a fantastic job, especially in the absence of Albert Pujols and whatnot. I just think that with the addition of Jason Hayward, that outfield with John Jay and Matt Holliday, I think they're going to be terrific. I think Johnny Peralta is one of the best shortstops in the league. And Yadier Molina, you can't go wrong with him behind the dish any day of the summer. So I'm going with the St. Louis Cardinals in the NL.
The only reason why I give the nod to the Nationals is because they're starting pitching. You know, that acquisition of Max Scherzer from Detroit, that really put them over the top, and that is why I put them as my favorite. Like I said earlier, they have Gio Gonzalez, Zimmerman, Strasburg, and Doug Fisher. Those 4 of those 5 could be, number ones at any other team. So, and when you talk about the postseason, pitching is one of the most important things.
Right.
And, pitching wins, games. So, I'm going to give the nod to the Nationals, but not by much.
All right. Awesome. So there are AL and NLCS picks there, and so it's time to get down to what matters the most in the World Series. And so my World Series matchup will be the Boston Red Sox versus the St. Louis Cardinals. Thomas will have the Boston Red Sox versus
the
Nationals. And to win the World Series, I hate to say it, Thomas, for obvious reasons, but I'm going with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, dude. I mean, I agree, but I'm going to have to go with the I agree that the NL's going to win it, but the Nationals are going to take this baby home.
Okay.
You
think it's finally that year for them to...
Yeah. I mean,
too much talent.
I know this is getting a little redundant, but they're pitching, man. I think starting pitching is the most important thing, to have on a team in the postseason.
Right.
If they can just shut